my biggest issue with the media hype in relation to NDIS is that the media quotes that 18% of Australian population is disabled right now. Ridiculous number of 18%. That basically
4.3 million.
Yeah, and so that basically says that 1 in every 5 Australian is disabled. Okay, and so my natural thinking is yes, that number could be right, but these boundaries of mental illness and these boundaries of disability have been blurred out completely. What is a disabled person in today's time is different to what a disabled person was when this policy was first announced in 2016, yes. Right?
Yes.
So it's a typical example of, what we call it, or people have been calling it as an over-medicalization of, normal household problems, right? So,
yeah.
The whole idea and then of, having an NDIS or NDIA was basically, people just to support people who are truly disabled. You hear people who are, losing confidence in today's time or opting out of work and finding it too difficult, or even like in some cases, I'm going to talk a bit more extreme, drug addictions,
Correct.
Which would have been given a completely different, medical description before. All of them are now, classified as disabled, right?
Yeah,
and so this is an attraction of a lavish lifestyle, that's how I would say. And probably, people are going to tarnish my reputation for me saying this, but, naturally that's what's happening, right? From an SDA provider.
It is. And this is unfortunate in this market and that's very fine line, right? People coming from the drug addict and then they're getting proven by their doctors that become disabled and they're falling into that luxury lifestyle, right? And as you said, this is very fine line where the system get abused by certain people or community, I would say, and that's where the things goes dirty. Yes. But again, and that's what we are trying to avoid. We are together coming and trying to help that community. Actually, they need properties, they need home, they need to get out from those disability share homes and all the places, so we can provide the best possible services.
Definitely.
And we don't want to entertain those people who have that sort of mental thought that yes. I can claim the disability, I can take the luxury life.
Yeah.
No, we're not providing, we're not helping. We're dealing directly with the hospital people.
Definitely.
We're dealing directly with the people actually the need. They've already got the plans approved for their funding because they are disabled. They need support.
I think the important thing here is that if you go back to the base case scenario of why NDIS was set up, right? NDIS was a promise to Australians made to support these special people, to ensure that they get the best life of their choosing, right?
Correct.
And so you look at these leakages, you look at these budget blowouts, it's because that these lines are blurred. It's because of this definition of a disabled person is now so loose, and people who are taking advantage, and actually it's the truly disabled people who is being disadvantaged out of all of these, equations. And so it's very, very important to understand, what the whole idea and the niche is. And this segues us into more of a government funding, government backed. And we've talked about this before as well, that, while there is massive government funding attached to it, an average NDIS recipient in today's time gets about $55,000, which is double the age pension in today's time, right?
Correct.
And so the scheme is set up skewed towards the services. Yes, housing is a small part of it, but ultimately the scheme was set up to ensure that the disabled people, could be brought back into workforces, could provide a healthy lifestyle. Basically that's what the whole idea and the niche of NDIS properties was.
Correct. It's both ways. Like when this scheme came into the effect, it works both ways, because the government helping those people, then investors, because they're happy to pay the rental contribution.
Yeah.
But also investing you coming to the market and building a home, you're actually helping government back as well, because then government taking those participants that are living in hospitals, they don't want them to be in hospital, right? They want them to get well soon and then move to the house. They can live comfortably, right? Their own life.
Yes.
So we're helping each other, and that's where the entire scheme was introduced for.
Yes. And so the point that I'm trying to make here is that when you talk about government-backed schemes, as these leakages and blowouts and the pressure builds up, the government either limits the scheme or comes out of the scheme very quickly. And NRES is a typical example where they had the cutoff this time June, where all the properties of NRES properties would basically, roll off. It's not that, if it's an NRES property, it's going to stay there and they're not going to, allow new NRES properties. All they're saying is that those properties who are there, no more benefit attached to it. That's it. And so imagine if something of that extension happens to NDIS properties and all of these tenants that are sitting in there. You can't charge them the amount of money that you want to charge to these people. You can't charge them normal tenancies in place. And so, from my perspective, that's the biggest risk attached to the NDIS space. And people who are investing should not truly be only investing from a dollar perspective. They should think about the social enterprise element of this and, the government's lens of, who the disabled person is, or tightening that definition could mean that, instead of one in, every 5 Australians having access to this, NDIS schemes, it could be 1 in 20 or 1 in 10. And that's where the mature market would really disintegrate in some, in some areas or some cases where there is, higher supply, lower demand.